Welcome to Bob Cargill's Marketing Show, a ridiculously awesome podcast bursting with insightful commentaries and intriguing conversations on the topics and issues that are on the minds of marketers, advertisers, social media, and PR professionals today.
Hey everybody, this is Bob Cargill from Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. We are about almost 4 months or so into the pandemic, and just want to say right at the top of the show, I'm thinking of you, wishing you well. These are tough times, difficult days, and most of us are hunkering down at home in our home offices, working from home, not seeing many people in person, maybe no people at all except those who we are living with. And so it's really difficult for all of us in different ways, and know again that I'm really thinking of you and wishing you well during these difficult times. I'm real thankful that what I do is mostly online in terms of what I do for work. And I think all of you know I do social media, I do copywriting, marketing, and that includes this podcast and a lot of video. And thankfully, technology has kept at least me and a lot of those I know well, and even some complete strangers, together while we have to stay apart in person. And speaking of connecting with people online, of course, that's what I do with my podcast, Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. And I record these episodes on Zoom. That's what I've been doing the last few months, put them up on YouTube and everywhere, pretty much all over social media. And today, I am very, very excited to have a guest, a very special guest. Her name is Kathy McConnell. She is a transformational marketer. And hey, complete disclosure, before before I hit record, I both of us were saying, when did we first meet? How did we first meet? We haven't met in person, and we still haven't. But I feel like this is really, it's the next best thing, Kathy, that's for sure. Welcome, Kathy McConnell, to Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. As I ask all of my guests right at the beginning, tell us about yourself, introduce yourself to my audience.
Well, thanks, Bob, so much for having me. And I am so thrilled to be part of your marketing show today. And a little bit about me. So I work with women-owned businesses who are looking to transform their marketing. Either they don't have any marketing whatsoever, or they want to harness the power of marketing and do it on their own terms. A lot of women get frustrated with marketing. There's so much to learn and digest and uncover. And I really help them understand all that and put it into terms that they can understand.
So am I hearing correctly that all or most of your clients are women-owned businesses? Is that a fact?
Well, most of them are. Occasionally I'll get a male client who will ask for a little help because they'll like to see what I've done with other clients. They're usually referrals from somebody else that I'll get, or something from LinkedIn, actually. So tell us what distinctions. I mean, I can speculate, and I think, having been in marketing forever, 35 plus years, I do know that some of the distinctions, nuances between a male versus female owned business, but help the audience understand what particular challenges and advantages, perhaps, upside and downside of being a women-owned business. I think a woman really feels like they are already behind the eight ball when they're marketing. For one, they feel like they may not have the connections that men have, and that men have the upper hand. I try to teach them that you really have this plethora of networking around you from either other networking sites. I mean, there are things like Pepper Lane now that are popping up, and those are great opportunities for women to get to know one another and share their business woes and their highs and lows, I guess.
So Pepper Lane, I've heard of it. Tell me a little more about Pepper Lane.
So I just joined Pepper Lane, and it's really a networking group for mom-owned businesses. And there are women there who don't necessarily have children. They may be dog moms, so they are also included. And it's a group of women that started this so women could really network together and help one another and support them through their marketing problems or their sales issues or their business problems, and help them to grow their business. And so it's an annual cost, and each month there are these things called boosts, and you get together. Now we get together online. We used to get together in person, and we help one another. You get like your 60-second pitch and you get to refine it a little bit more, and you also connect with other people in the room or on the Zoom, and you really start to make what I refer to almost as business partners. I've met some great people that way.
That is excellent. And you're talking about the networking, the benefits of networking. In this case, it's a women centric, if you will, exclusively women,
Yep.
getting together online or in person. But in general, the benefits of networking, it goes back many years. Getting together in person, helping each other, community, so important that we help each other, support each other, and especially during these last few months. It's so using technology, it's so helpful to hear from others and get feedback from others.
Yeah, I mean, I never would have met you on LinkedIn, if I hadn't have networked with you. So all this online stuff has been so great to be a part of. So I feel really lucky.
Totally. So Kathy, regarding the pandemic, the last 4 months now, it was early March. I think we all pretty much went into quarantine, if you will. And I know things are opening up gradually, but it's still far from normal, obviously. How has that affected business? How has it affected you working with your clients? Any particular challenges surfacing over the last few months that you can tell us about?
Yeah, I think a lot of clients went into a panic mode immediately, those who have brick and mortars. And I decided to go more down the educational route. Originally, I was always meeting up with people and consulting one-on-one, and it really had to change my business. And, everybody uses that pivot word. We all had to pivot our business. And so I said, to people, pivot, don't quit. This is your opportunity to really shine. I developed a marketing strategy template for people so then that they could learn how to pivot their business and be more prepared for something like the pandemic that came up. And so now I educate people. I do, just like you do these podcasts, I do Zooms now with people, and find that it's really nice. I mean, it's funny. I get goosebumps thinking about all the amazing people I've met just from Zooming. I almost feel like people are more comfortable talking over Zoom than having to drive somewhere, meet someone they've never met, and this faceless person. So it's been kind of nice. I really like it now.
I love the point you're making, Kathy, regarding technology is keeping us together while we have to stay apart in person. Interestingly, I find it fascinating how some people don't like it and aren't used to it, are uncomfortable. I don't know what the percentage of people that is, but those of us like myself and you, and I know there are plenty others, especially if we've been using Zoom, online technologies to stay in touch in the past, we can really take advantage of this. And yeah, I mean, I was telling you earlier before I hit record, used to do all of my podcasts in person. So that would mean, traveling and setting up, and it would take half a day. Now I set up an hour or two at the most via Zoom, and I can meet with people that I would not be able or would have been a big deal to have traveled to somewhere to meet them. Now it's a lot easier, seamless, and thanks again to Zoom and people like you and me who know how to leverage it. Yeah, we can make more connections than ever. And people like you and I who consult, we can tell our clients, that's how you do it during this pandemic.
Right.
And maybe going forward, meaning take what you've learned during this difficult time, the best of what you've learned, and leverage that going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited to say that I have a client in Germany. I mean, I never would have had a client in Germany if it weren't for Zoom and just saying, and she had never used Zoom before. So I had to almost do a Zoom tutorial for her first before we even started. And then she was able to Zoom, and now she's slowly becoming an expert in it, and she loves it. She thinks it's the greatest thing in the world. So I feel really lucky.
It is powerful, and the possibilities are endless what we can do with Zoom and social media in general. I think any online technology, thanks to the internet and social media. But I do feel bad for, people who, again, aren't comfortable with it, don't know how to use it, and are missing out. And I think a lot of that might be in people's personal lives, meaning think of, my mom's 89 years old. She's not comfortable on the computer with the internet, and that's a good percentage of our population. People who are older, people who may not have access to technology, and then there are people who are either afraid of it or don't like it. Again, you and I, we're like, yeah, this is really cool. But it's an opportunity again for people like you and I, because we know how to do it, to teach others and to talk about. I talked about on Facebook the other day. I had a little dialogue going with someone who wasn't trusting of social media, and I said, "Oh, come on, social media is, to me, how you get to know people in this day and age."
Yeah.
And I don't know what you think about that, but I told he was saying he doesn't trust social media. I was saying quite the contrary, meaning you can see pretty quickly who's on the up and up and who isn't.
Yeah, and I think social media is whatever you make of it. I think whatever you put in, you're going to get out. When you just want to just post, if you think that you're just going to post and kind of, they call it spray and pray kind of posting, you're really not going to get much out of social media. And if that's the sort of thing that you're following, then yeah, you're not going to get much out of it. But when you engage and you really read the post, I mean, a lot of people don't really read the whole post, which I'm amazed at. I love to see some people that make a comment that has nothing to do with the post, because I clearly can see, wow, they didn't even read the post.
Totally.
And it's really a disappointment.
They didn't read every word. They also are jumping in and out, so they're not getting the full perspective. And they are judging maybe based on one social media channel. So yeah, they're only looking at Facebook. Well, you have no idea what goes on Twitter. And then they'd say, well, yeah, well, I see the headlines and I don't want to know. But then it's like reviewing a book or a movie without having seen it, meaning, you have to spend some time on these channels, immerse yourself in them, and just look and listen and watch and hear what people have to say and get the full perspective before you impulsively judge it negatively. Realize that for as much negativity that you might see in the mainstream news regarding social media, there's as much, or I would absolutely like to say strongly, more positivity on social media. You just got to do your homework.
Yeah. And that's why the search bar is there. That's, I recommend to more people, if you're looking for a specific topic, then throw in a word in there and search for something. Use it as if it was, like it's Google. I mean, use it as a search engine. It's really fun to see what you can find. You have no idea. I mean, the power of Facebook alone now has all these TV channels, and you can watch those. You can find rooms of groups of people. I mean, there's so much more that you can find that might be something that you find interest in, rather than the ugly things that people think social media has to offer.
Correct. And that's, I'd like to put an exclamation mark on that point you just made. The ugly things that they see might be the headlines, might be related to politics. We won't necessarily go there, but the squabbling, the hating that we occasionally see in the mainstream news pulled from social media. Sure, that's just the extreme. I'll give you a real good example of Facebook being a lifesaver. I'm president of my running club, the Greater Framingham Running Club, and as soon as the coronavirus crisis hit, we had to, your word, pivot during the pandemic and go all online. We're using Zoom for our monthly meetings, and we're doing what we call and is commonly called virtual races, virtual running, meaning we can't get together in person and run races. So I miss the, hearing the huffing and puffing of my fellow competitors and trying to pass people and getting frustrated if they pass me in a race. But at least we can do these virtual runs. We do them alone, take a picture on our watch of the time, share it on Facebook, and we're staying in touch together while we have to stay apart. We're posting them almost weekly on Facebook, and we see each other. We're proud of each other. We're cheering each other on. Thanks to Facebook, we're staying together during these difficult times.
Yeah. And I mean, Facebook came out with that whole advertising campaign around groups, and I loved it because it really, I just wish more people would realize that you can find people who have the same interests as you. And that's what they were trying to get across with that campaign. And it's true. You can start a group so easily and then, make it easier for everyone to stay connected and be within that same mindset. I think it's so great. I love the groups on Facebook.
So I'm right there with you, Kathy. I'm turning up my volume here just a little bit. I got a truck going by in front here. Don't know if you could hear that, but it's
I
drowning.
didn't hear it.
Okay, that's good. But it was so loud I had trouble hearing you for a second there. Let's go back in time, if you will, pre-pandemic. I'm curious about your career. Again, we only met a year or two ago, maybe only a year or so ago, online. And I asked you to be my guest because we see each other on LinkedIn primarily. Plug for LinkedIn, the benefits of online networking, social networking. Going back as far as you want, typically what have you specialized in, and how has your marketing career evolved over the years?
Yeah, well, I mean, I tell this story on my website about when I was about 10 years old that I really started to fall in love with marketing because I opened up a lemonade stand. And I wasn't just, that little kid who took the table and then mom's lemonade and a couple chairs and a coin holder or something and put it out there for a weekend. I used to set up when we had this thing called the Dogwood Festival in the town that I grew up in, and busloads and carfuls of people would come by, and I would just set up my little site, and I would have 5 little kids working for me, my little employees, which consisted of my brother and then my close friends and their sisters. And we would sell anything from little maps to show them the great places that they could go. And each one was hand drawn and, signed by the kids. And so we sold not just lemonade, we learned to upsell people along the way. We even sold shark teeth, I think, at one point. But it was the greatest 2 weeks of my life when they had these fairs. It was the only time I did it. We were on a hot corner, and I used to make about $500 a weekend. So I was 10 years old and loving marketing back then. So when I got the opportunity to start selling more things, I got into radio. Right after I got married, I wanted to find a job that would be really hard, something really hard to sell. And what's harder to sell than air? So I decided, all right, I'll sell radio. And from there, I really learned how to sell or how to market something and teach marketing to a client. And it was the greatest opportunity. I had a great teacher who focused more on the marketing side, and we would educate the client more on the benefits of marketing rather than selling the 30 or 60-second radio spot. So that's really where I got my beginnings from.
That's fascinating, and I love that story. And you connected the dots between marketing and sales. I think a lot of people don't realize how closely aligned marketing and sales are. And the course of my career, it's been mostly direct marketing, where pretty much everything I do, and it still is true with regard to social media, is measured. And so I could have the best creative idea and looks cool, sounds cool, people even respond to it favorably, but if they don't click, and back in the day, if they didn't send in the coupon or pick up the phone, it's not successful. So having a sales perspective on marketing is so important. It sounds like you have that.
Yeah, I love to sell things. I used to always say I could sell anything, but what I really realized is it was not so much the selling, it was more of the marketing, and that it was all in the words you chose. It was in the presentation of the product. It was more in and I always feel like, and salespeople may hate me for this, but I feel like marketing's more important than sales. I think sales are great, but I think if you don't have marketing, you can't possibly sell a product. So, but I think having both in my blood definitely helps.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get no arguments from me with regard to marketing.
So.
When I tell people that about social media, and it's very, no, it's not easy to put up a great argument that, hey, social media is essential, but I do believe it is to your marketing efforts and leads to sales, because it's a way to keep yourself in front of your audience day in and day out, not just here and there, but consistently. And if people see you and hear from you and they get to know you and they like you and respect you, then when it comes time for them to, if they have an interest in the kind of products and services you have to offer, you're top of mind. So they're going to buy from you. Hey, I have a question, because I mentioned creative earlier, and I'm curious, this goes back quite a few years, where sometimes there's a little debate or a formula with regard to the importance of creative and the importance of the offer and the importance of your audience. In other words, if you're a marketer or a salesperson, what do you think is most important, the creative, the offer, or the list? In other words, those who you are marketing to, your audience.
Oh my gosh. So this is so hard because one, you're a creative person. And I'm a marketer. So I would always say the offer first and foremost. But, back in my Comcast days, this was always a big debate. We would go back and forth over what, was it the creative that was driving it, or was it the offer that's driving it, or is it the people? And I think over time, what I've learned is it's really the target. It's the list of people. If you can't hit them where they can be related to, and now more than ever, we can relate to them in social media, it's nothing. You have nothing unless you have those people. So I would say it's really your target market is very critical.
If I was and we're close to the same many years of experience. I think I have more years of experience, but that's not bragging. I'm just saying I'm a lot older. Maybe a couple, maybe a 10 or 20. I don't know. But anyways, back in the day, there was a formula. It was 40, 40, 20. You scored correctly on that answer, according to what I learned, and not only in textbooks, but in real life experience. And unfortunately, the creative was least important, even though we put so much time and effort into it. The audience is critical, and the offer is critical, and almost what you said, the audience is most important. There was some axiom, I remember, a bad offer to a good list works better than a good offer to a bad list, something like that. So that list, who you are marketing to, that has to come first. And then the offer, and then the creative, unfortunately. At least that's how it was in textbooks years ago.
I know, and I think of all the money that was spent or is spent on creative and the time, it's just unbelievable. So you got to do your homework.
It was a double-edged sword, meaning my whole career and up to this day and going forward, so much emphasis placed on what I do as the writer, and I'm working with a designer, and everyone's nitpicking and crossing T's, dotting I's, and it's like, team, it's important, but it's not always the deal maker or breaker. It's more important that we have a great list and audience and a great product and offer. Trust me, it's gonna make I'd like to think it makes a huge difference, but based on experience, the creative is not the most important factor in the marketing equation.
Yeah, I agree totally.
So I'm very partial to social media, but that's really a new thing, relatively, again, in my long storied or checkered career. In other words, I was direct mail for years, only direct mail. Then it was email. And then I started my blog in 2004, and it's been a lot of social media, but it's still direct mail copywriting. I still do plenty of that. But how do you feel, where I'm going with this is, I'm biased. I love social media. I believe it's very, very important in the marketing mix. What do you think about social media in general versus other channels?
Yeah, I think social media is so critical. I mean, you hit on it earlier where you said you have to stay top of mind. And in order to keep your brand out there, I think that that's so important to use social media. A lot of people think that social media doesn't work. They'll say, well, it doesn't work for me. And I'm like, well, what are you asking it to do? You're not going to get a sale from posting one thing. And you've got to really, like we talked about before, you've got to engage a little bit too with your customers. And maybe you're not in the right place, or maybe you're not speaking to the right audience. But I love social media for keeping your brand relevant and relatable to your target audience.
Are there any particular channels, Kathy, that you would recommend to your clients versus others? And, I would include TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You and
Believe
I
it or not, yeah, I haven't gotten on the TikTok bandwagon, although many people have told me to. My daughter is fearful that I will join TikTok world. Not ready to dive into there yet. I still feel like Facebook's got this incredible power, and the targeting that you can do with Facebook is so brilliant. I mean, I'm part of probably 10 to 12 different groups where I can jump in and jump out. I do market research directly on Facebook. I think it's just a phenomenal tool to be able to use, and it shouldn't be ignored. And I think most people do use it. They may not necessarily use it the right way, or the way that I would recommend. I guess my way is the right way. And I think that Instagram is a close second for people. I don't know. I think it's a great branding tool. I don't know how much it is to sell a specific product or service. I think that it's a great way to stay in touch with your potential consumer and your customers. But now that Instagram has that shopping ability, you now can sell directly online. So I've seen some great advertising, or not even advertising, but great posts from companies that are using that. So it's amazing how much social media has changed, even from, 5 years ago.
No, absolutely. And this is what I do for my clients. Again, I do some part, direct mail copywriting, email copywriting, part social media, which means creating content for them, keeping the lights on, keeping them very active on these social media channels. And I do some teaching as well. But the social media part, I do emphasize to clients, the more you do it, the better. Be where your audience is. So you mentioned TikTok. Yeah, it's important, I think, as a social media consultant to know how it works, but it's not necessarily what my clients are going to use. And so, that's probably not where we're going to spend our time. I spend most of my time on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn and Instagram. But, some on YouTube. I have personally experimented with Snapchat and personally with TikTok, but that's mainly because I feel I have to know those channels. Hey, maybe they'll take off, or maybe I'll get a client that needs to be there because that's where their audience is. But bottom line, it's where your audience is where you should spend time. So that's my experience. Do you personally spend a lot of time on social media? And when you do, wherever you go, who do you follow? Who do you think does a great job? Who inspires you? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I really, I met this great woman on LinkedIn, believe it or not. And I use LinkedIn pretty heavily, and she had not really gotten into LinkedIn as well. And so we sort of traded back and forth. She does a great job on Instagram. She's called Levity Brand or Levity Design. And she's like a graphic brand designer, and she's phenomenal. And I love to follow her. Courtney, big shout out to her. So she's one person I admire, how she's using social media as a small brand. I think that it's great. Some other brands that I love is really, I don't know if you've ever seen Cupshe, but you may not be targeting you actually because it's a woman's product. But globally, I love what they do. They really get their audience involved and get them to post their images and their pictures of their products. It's all swimwear based, so it's kind of fun, and people like to show off where they are, maybe on a beach or by a pool somewhere. And one of the things that they do that I love is that they have in their bio is different tags for how you, so if you're in Denmark, it's like at DEN, or so they have different tags for different languages. So it's really phenomenally done. I really like their the way that they target people.
That's a good example, Kathy, a great example of crowdsourcing. So brands leveraging the content that their audience puts out there and making the audience the star. And that's the social and social media. And I do tell brands and my own clients, hey, it's not all about you. You want to make it about your audience, those whose attention you covet. And they love it when you like their content, when you reshare their content. Hey, you reach out to them and say, can we use your content in one of our ads even? It makes them the star. It flatters them. It shows the rest of your audience that you really care about your customers and prospects. And it's a win-win.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have a client recently who they just happened to notice that they showed up in a video promo for a magazine. And so I said, you should do a promo around it. You got to do something or do a post about it. You have to promote the fact and thank the magazine for including you in this promo of theirs. I mean, it's a big deal. And you know, you'll probably get some shout outs from them in return. And it creates that dialogue of the conversation back and forth. Sure, you paid for an ad to be in there, but they didn't have to feature you in their video promo, and they did. So it came out really well, and he just posted yesterday, and really happy with the turnout of how many people commented on it too. So
yeah, and this, you know, again, I been around the block a few times, and this is was the transformation, and you're a transformational marketer, so this is aligns with your brand and how you handle your clients. Social media, the internet was transformative in that. Prior to that, back in my early days, I think you were selling radio spots, and I was writing junk mail back in the day. And again, I still write tons of direct mail. You know, whenever it comes my way, the opportunity arises. But where I'm going is, it used to be one way, top down, interruptive marketing, meaning, you know, an ad on the radio or a direct mail piece in your mailbox or a billboard. And now, thanks to social media, we can have this conversation with our clients, marketers can. So it's interactive, it's two-way, it's not interruptive, meaning we get their permission to talk to them. It's implied that we have their permission when they like us or follow us. So then, hey, we're a brand or a business, we can say, hey, how you doing, Kathy? And Kathy, how can we help you? And Kathy says, oh, I'd like, you know, that shirt in the color red, not yellow. And we can say, well, we're going to look into that. And then a month later, hey, we suddenly have that shirt in the color red, thanks to our maybe new customer, Kathy McConnell. So that's conversational marketing. It's bringing the customer into the process. It's coming down from your ivory tower, which was said in the book Clue Chain Manifesto back in 1999, 2000. They said, hey, marketers, come down from your ivory towers and be among your customers. Listen to what they have to say, what they are asking you to do, and respond favorably. And they're going to like you, and it's going to be a win-win situation.
do you think that some companies are fearful of that, though, that it opens up Pandora's box in some way, that they're afraid of the comments that might pop up, that they may be negative towards their products? Because that does happen from time to time. and social media has also become this, what's the word for it? I can't think of it. Customer service.
Yes,
So obvious.
yes.
So it's become this customer service channel. But do you think that some brands or some people, we've talked about being afraid of social media, do you think that they're afraid of social media for those reasons? Do you come across that ever?
Yes. Yes. In a word, yes. No, you hit the nail on the head. So it's a double-edged sword. Mixed feelings do some people have about, the benefit, the upside versus the downside. So, the good doesn't necessarily come without some bad, meaning, let's say you're a restaurant and I have a long list of restaurants on Twitter that I've curated, and it's a big deal for restaurants to get good reviews, to get great response. They want you to take pictures of your meal and the food, the plates, and share it on Instagram and say how much you love their food. But if you're a restaurant, you run the risk of that customer who might say, I didn't like the food, and
Yep.
there are those critics out there, no matter how good a restaurant you might be. So you absolutely, that's probably one of the biggest reasons my clients, prospects, businesses, and brands in general are afraid to get on social media. They're afraid of the negativity.
Mm-hmm.
But what in the Clue Train Manifesto, that book referenced about 20 years ago, they said, but these people are having those conversations anyways, behind your back. So you may as well join that conversation and ideally lead that conversation and turn, if there are critics out there, turn them into customers, by paying attention to what they're saying and engaging with them a little, taking it offline if they're really angry. But ideally turning critics into customers. That's a big, big benefit of social media.
Yep. I think that's so true. And I think that that's what social media offers now for people, is to really turn it into an opportunity as opposed to the negative. And not a lot of businesses see that, but that's one of the things that I teach people, that this is a great way for you to open up the doors and show them what's behind the curtain a little bit. And that's the beauty of it.
It's, it's psychology. It very much touches on interpersonal communications. And I think that's why I love social media so much. I mean, I went to school back in the day, a long time ago, majored in communications in English at UMass, Amherst, then a graduate degree in television from Brooklyn College. But where I'm going with this is I always loved communications. And I think it had to do with getting to know people, the psychology behind it. And that's marketing. And I've, been surprised, continue to be surprised by people resisting this opportunity to get to know your audience better. But at the same time, I realized why, and you brought it up, and I'm glad you did, why they don't. They're afraid, and because the truth can hurt.
Yep.
But unfortunately, look at this world, and we're in turmoil right now in this country because of the pandemic. Racism is reared its ugly head. Unfortunately, sadly, that's still a big part of what's going on in this country. So there's the pandemic, there's racism, there's the economy that's struggling. People are a little depressed and anxious. Where I'm going here is social media. It can hurt because people can see the negativity, but it can help too. It can connect us. We can learn what people feel, and as marketers, we want to know what people really feel, and ideally, we should want them to know how we feel about these important issues. So we should make some statements and we should express our feelings. That's going to endear them to us. It's going to be a win-win, from a personal standpoint, and I think from a business standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. And I really think that it's key to listen to that audience at the same time. We talked about going through that search bar and identifying things that maybe you're interested in. Well, you can use that search bar to find comments about your business and or about your industry and listen to what people are saying about it. And maybe there are opportunities for you there too. So I love that search bar in Instagram and in Facebook. I just think it's a great invention. Love the search bar.
I agree, Kathy, and you emphasizing that is a great tip for anyone listening and watching, everyone listening and watching. Use, search out on all the social media channels what you want to follow. I told this person, he was questioning, the efficacy or why is social media so great, because he hears me preaching about its benefits constantly. And I said, you're only seeing a part of it if you're just reading the headlines, or so you don't like the politics, or there is hate on social media, but search out who you want to talk to, who you want to surround yourself with. To me, it's a dream come true for people. If you like people, if you want to learn, because you can curate that which you want to be surrounded with and by, and what could be better than that if you love people and love learning.
Yeah, and you touched on something that we didn't even talk about yet, and that's YouTube. And I mean, I learn everything through YouTube. If I didn't have YouTube, I would be in trouble. I mean, it is my go-to for everything. I am completely self-taught in SEO and content writing and all kinds of things, just because I can use YouTube. I mean, I use it for every recipe that I can find. And I just think that, it's great that people like you are on it. I've got a channel on there, and it's nice because you can really find whatever you want on YouTube as well. And learning is the key.
I'm glad you brought up what you just said about YouTube and being self-taught. My kids and the younger generation, I do some teaching, and I have 2 stepchildren and 2 sons. So I have 4 young people that I love dearly and have watched grow up, and how they learn. And frankly, I think they can learn as much or maybe more just watching YouTube versus, formal education. I mean, and so those of us like myself, who are older and aren't paying attention, are going to miss the boat. And that's why I've tried to pay attention since the launch of the internet and social media, realizing that, hey, this is not necessarily our future. This is now. This is the present. So we need to open up our eyes as a society.
Yep, exactly.
Hey, let me ask you about any highlights. So we've covered a lot of ground. I think we can still cover more ground in the next few minutes, but I want to make sure, is there anything I've overlooked with regard to your career, any clients, any projects you want to give shout outs to or talk about, anything in particular, highlights, lowlights?
Yeah, so I have this one client that I absolutely loved working with, and she is a shoe designer. We worked together last year. She imports shoes from Spain. It's a tiny little island in Spain, and it's called Avarcas, and it's or Menorca. Sorry, the shoes are called Avarcas. And so this tiny little island is well known for making these particular summer sandals. And it's funny because they get mimicked over here in this country, but hers are all leather or whatever. But I had so much fun because I had to take a course in copywriting in order to help do the copywriting for her campaign. And we came up with this whole campaign that the shoes had a personality because each of her shoe was named after one of her friends. So I would have her friend describe, or have her describe the friend to me, and then I would create this scenario around the woman and her shoe and what that relationship was with the shoe. And it was a great campaign. We did it last summer, and it was one of my favorite campaigns I've ever done. And just a shout out to her.
So if people want to look her up, do you have a website or
so
you can
media? You can go to rgbavarcas.com, and those are her shoes.
How do you spell the Avarcas?
Avarcas.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And I love, you said she names each shoe after a friend?
After a close friend. And it's so cute because she would tell me a story about a particular friend and what that friend's personality was like. So I had to come up with this whole copy around the friend and the shoe.
That is brilliant. I love that. So that's storytelling.
Yeah.
And it's so important in marketing, and it comes from the heart. That's genuine, and it makes her shoes stand out from the competition. Have you worn her shoes? Can I ask?
I have. I love her shoes. My dog actually ate my one pair of shoes. So,
Oh, that's too bad.
yeah, but she came out with a new line for this spring. So there are a couple pair that I really want. So I think I'll be buying a couple of those pair.
Very cool. Maybe you could barter some of your marketing services for a pair of shoes.
I know.
Hey, that's a great story, Kathy. And again, from a marketing standpoint, I'm always trying to harp on the marketing angle, naming the product after, in her case, shoes, after her friends. It personalizes the product and gives you an opportunity to tell stories about the product. And I really like that. I think it's a great example. Any I certainly have talked about the history of marketing, at least going back to my early days in the 80s, writing direct mail, and I mentioned email, the onset of the internet back in the mid 90s, and then in 2004, my blog, et cetera, et cetera. But look where we are now with TikTok and Snapchat and video, and us doing this conversation by Zoom. Hey, I'm a marketer, but I spend a lot of my time now connecting with people such as yourself, and this is creating content. This is content marketing. If I want to sound a little selfish, I'll put this out there, and it's a way of keeping me visible, way of keeping you visible, Kathy. This is the current state of marketing. What do you think we're going to see in the future? Any predictions? Any thoughts?
I think more of this is going to happen. Far more video. People will get more comfortable. I've been really pushing my clients towards the lives to be there. So when your audience feels like they can reach out and touch you, I think lives are such a great opportunity. They remind me of radio events when we used to do live remotes on site with radio, and they would see the DJ and they'd get all excited because they could possibly get on the radio. Well, now when someone does a live either on Instagram or on Facebook, it's such a great feeling because you're like, oh, I'm part of the show. I'm part of what's going on. I'm part of what's happening. I can make a comment in real time and other people will see it. So I think that you'll see a lot more of that happening more and more.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more on the live video in general. It's certainly where I've been going, and what I've done for some of my clients, teach them how to do video on their own. It's not hard, using technology, using your smartphone. And it's funny you mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned live, because I've tinkered with it myself. Done a little of it with clients, and have thought, hey, I could do these podcasts live. Have not yet. But easily could. I have the Zoom subscription, if you will, that enables that feature, and we could be doing this live on Facebook as well. I agree. It's the next best thing to be in there, and it's how people get to know you. And as I already said during this conversation, they get to know you, they like you, they respect you, and you're top of mind when it comes time to buying the types of products and services that you have to offer. That's the value of video and leveraging social media is people do business with people. And so why not, jump on that social media bandwagon?
Yep. And you become more real. I think, that's the one thing that I always tell people, that you want to show your real side. You don't want to just be this machine or this product, be so much more than the product. Be a real person and someone that the potential customer feels like they can reach out to you. I think that makes a big difference for people today more than ever. They want to be part of your product if they really are on that bandwagon.
Hey, Kathy, anything non-marketing, non-business related that you can share with us? What do you do, if you don't mind me asking, personally when you're not working? Any hobbies, interests, anything we don't know about you, which is
Yeah,
plenty that you want to share with us.
I just picked up golf at age 54, if you can believe it. My parents were avid golfers my entire life, and I think that I always dreaded it. I never wanted to play because I felt like they spent their whole life on a golf course. But now my husband and I are trying to find things to do together, and we go hiking. But we discovered golf together, and he's been golfing for years, but I absolutely have fallen in love with it. I even bought a set of clubs, and now I go hit and play golf every week. And so that's been my newest hobby. Other than that, I'm always with my dogs. My dogs are always with me, my two mutts.
I think I might have heard them barking a little bit, just a tiny bit
You
earlier
may have.
on. And I don't know if my dog was out in the front yard when the mailman came by.
Yeah, I'm lucky the mailman isn't here right now.
And golf. So I used to golf. I grew up golfing with my dad. I never was a very good golfer, but adequate, and we'd go quite a bit, a handful of times every year. And I even taught my two boys how to golf. But again, only going 3, 4, 5 times a summer. I have not done it in probably 10 years, but I do love golf. It's so good for you picking it up. It's a great sport. It's so relaxing. You forget about everything, I think, and you're out in beautiful nature, and it's relaxing and stressful at the same time, because it's a hard sport to be good at, I think.
It is. It's a really hard sport, but my son also plays, so it's fun. I mean, the three of us can go out and just play once a week and spend some quality time together. I mean, I always looked at it that it took my parents away from me, and now that I've played, now I understand how it could have brought us together. So, not looking back too far, I wish I had golfed with my parents way back when, but now I'm golfing with my son.
That's awesome. And yeah, like I say, I taught my kids, and they're fond memories, and now they know how to golf if they're asked to golf with somebody, or if they want to do it themselves. And maybe we'll all do it again someday. I just haven't in years now. Have you ever been, I'll tell you something my wife and I have done a good amount of times, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, maybe more than that, is gone to a pro golf tournament. Have you ever seen a pro golf tournament in person?
I have. Actually, I was really spoiled as a young kid that my parents would take me to pro golf tournaments. We lived in Connecticut, so we could go to what was the GHO, which is now the Travelers. We even had a couple golf tournaments at our country club that I belonged to when I was a kid, or my parents belonged to. So I was really spoiled. And then when I sold radio, WEEI was one of our partners, so I could go out to a golf event. I think there was something out in Concord one year. I don't remember.
Yeah, the scene. So you've seen
was
more
it the
of it.
Seniors? Yeah,
the Seniors tour, because I live in Sudbury, and we went to that at least once, maybe a couple times. And I wish they still. That's at Nashada. It was at Nashada Country Club.
That's right. Yeah, that was beautiful setting. Mm-hmm. Really loved that. So I've always loved watching golf. I mean, there's nothing to watch on TV right now. So what else to do better than on the weekend and watch some golf? So I'm really into the golf tournaments right now.
I'm preaching to the choir when I say watching golf in person is amazing. We've gone down to Norton to see the used to be called the Deutsche Bank Classic. I forget the name of it now, and I think they even did not have it last summer, and I don't know if they're having it this summer.
I don't know what they renamed it to.
Yeah, but we to get up close, I mean, literally just a few feet away from like Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson, and see them drive and see them putt in person. I mean, it's amazing to watch, to me, in person.
Yeah, I feel like it's the closest you can really get to an athlete. I mean, it's unbelievable. It really is.
Oh, you can get, again, like 3, 4 feet away while they're, the cameras are on them. They may be on you and behind them, and they're putting, or driving to maybe win, $1 million, and you're right there next to them. I mean, that is so cool.
I know. I don't know how they do it with the microphones everywhere. It's just, it's crazy.
Well, you mentioned my videos earlier on. Maybe it was before I hit record, but I did a video about, I think his name is Bryson DeChambeau.
DeChambeau, yeah.
Yeah, and he just won, I think, last weekend.
He did. We watched, that was the Rocket Mortgage
Well, we saw him down at in Norton a few years ago, and he golfed well. I can't remember if he won or was right near the top. And I did a video about ignore the hecklers, because for some reason there was someone in the crowd watching who was saying something to him right before he drove the ball. And, he didn't even look, didn't even seem to notice, and hit a perfect drive. And I was like, oh my God, to see the crowd. First of all, shame on that heckler, because you're not supposed to do that at a golf event.
Right.
But good for Bryson DeChambeau, how he just ignored it. They are so focused and concentrated, and they are unnerved by anybody in the crowd, saying things.
He actually got into a little tiff with a cameraman this past week.
I did see that.
It's funny that you bring him up, because, I feel bad for these guys. They're under so much pressure, and, and then I think a camera guy's under pressure to get the right shot and to get the whole feeling and the emotions. But, it's tough. It's got to be really tough. I have such a tough time having my husband watch me. I can't imagine these people having thousands of people watching them play.
No, that's why they're superstars. And I was so impressed with him. And he actually, you brought up this weekend with that cameraman, he had some good responses wherever I read the article that, hey, we're human too. And, we're passionate, and occasionally, it's frustrating. Listen, I said to you, golf can be relaxing. It can be super stressful. And that's not even being on camera,
That's right.
Competing on the pro tour. Hey, we could talk about golf and for a whole nother hour. Back to marketing, or at least back to wrapping up this episode of my marketing show with Kathy McConnell. Kathy, tell people, if they want to reach out to you, follow you on social media, how can people who are watching and listening get in touch with you, please?
Sure. Great. So I have my website, which is kathymcconnellmarketing.com. And that's 2 N's, 2 C's, 2 N's, 2 L's when you spell McConnell. Or you can find me on Instagram at the Kathy McConnell. And I'm on Facebook under Smarketing You. Smarketing is my little whimsical way of calling it smart marketing. And you can also find my YouTube channel at Smarketing You as well. So I'm pretty much all over the place that you can find me.
Awesome. Kathy McConnell, I thank you so much for your time. It's been such a pleasure talking about marketing and social media and golf with you.
This is great. Thank you.
Yeah, so much fun. She's a transformational marketer, and you can find Kathy McConnell on LinkedIn, and you said you have the website, you have the YouTube channel, and I think you and I have a lot in common, and I'm so glad to have gotten to know you better today. Thanks so much, Kathy.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me, Bob.
My pleasure. Hey, folks, this has been Bob Cargill, Bob Cargill's Marketing Show. And today I've been talking to Kathy McConnell. I thank her. I hope you've enjoyed our conversation. I sure did. And I wish you well. I'm thinking of you all during these tough times, difficult days. And I look forward to talking to you again very soon. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.